Good evening, this is Ali Tarnishi at Connect with Ali show. Our show focuses on cultural diversity and raising awareness to inspire a positive change. And today we have amazing guests. They are active in the community. I have Christine Anna and they have Diane Blanco. And both they are doing so amazing stuff in the community. Diane is one of the co-founder of Queen of Heart. And Christine, she is the link between the school, student, and community. Diane Blanco, tell us, who is Diane Blanco?
Ooh.
And welcome, and nice to have you on the show.
Thank you. There's a lot about Diane Blanco. But I'm just going to be really short right now. Short story. Well, I'm a single mother of 2 young boys, handsome, I might say. Elijah and Nico. I'm a youth worker. I started a new job with Hala Connected here in Moncton also. And like you said, I'm the co-founder of Queens of Heart.
By the way, you guys doing a lot of amazing stuff.
Thank you. So we do help struggling families in the community. I love it. We started it at the beginning of the pandemic. So it was like a moment that we needed to be together as a community and help each other, you know. Like for me it was realizing that we might say we're all in this together, but we weren't. Because a lot of people were struggling and having a hard time paying utilities and feeding their kids, and other people were financially okay. And I was blessed that I was financially okay as a youth worker, so I just wanted to give back to the community that gave so much to me and my kids.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work, and thank you for doing what
so
you are doing, and nice to have you. Christine Anna, my friend.
Hello.
Hello, nice
so
to have you.
I am born and raised in Moncton, so we're here in my hometown. And from a very young age, I just always, I always had a soft spot for the community. I just always wanted to help support, either it was through volunteer or whatnot. And so I worked for the community in various ways, various positions, and now I'm with the Anglophone East School District, and I've been with them since 2012. And as you said, I'm a link between the community, the school, students, essentially building partnerships, helping them, helping students become the best version of themselves, essentially. And no, I've heard of many things that Diane has done, and it's amazing. When we all come together for community work, that's the way to be. And as far as the pandemic was, we definitely had a lot of work to do for that last year as well. A lot of lunches that were being brought to homes and whatnot. So anyways, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you. Keep up the good work, because that's what we need. We need to build the future leaders by providing that environment so they can flourish, so they can grow, and so they can use their diversity. Absolutely. And that just will bring us to the question, what does diversity mean to you, lady?
Oh my.
Lady first.
Ladies first. Yes. Well, diversity to me is pretty much what Moncton is. You know, as I have 2 young boys, they're mixed. Honestly, they're a mix of like every culture that you can. Honestly, if you think about it, like Irish, Acadian, Mi'kmaq, you have Dominican, Italian in them, like they're mixed. And here in Moncton, we have such a diverse community. And for me personally, is having every culture together and understanding each other and working into one common goal to help the community, to help one another. And I feel like we do have this in Moncton. I feel like we do have this diverse culture here. We, like everywhere you turn, it doesn't matter, you can see how diversity is working. And it's like kind of like beautiful to see. Like I'm so excited. Like every time I'm like, oh my God, you know. There's like one of my friends as they have like a little like restaurant if you want at home, but they just like deliver. And they do like mixed food from Mexico, from Dominican Republic, and Acadian food too, right? And then they have like this mix because they're a mixed family, they're a diverse family. Amazing. So they want to bring that to their community.
Show, huh?
I know, right?
Or just do the show at the restaurant.
No, we should bring the food to the show.
Yeah, exactly. You have the number we can call, deliver.
Deliver the food to us. But yeah, they have a diverse family, and they want to bring that to our diverse community that we have. Yeah, for me, diversity is what Moncton is. Different cultures together and working as one.
I love that. I love what you shared, understanding each other, and diversity is Moncton because understanding each other to thrive together to build our community.
100.
Christine, my friend, diversity.
I love what you just shared because really diversity is the differences, it's the variety, and I'm growing. You know, I as I said, I grew up here in Moncton, and I'm growing to love Moncton more and more because of the diversity. Quite frankly, and this is really from the bottom of my heart, from a very young age, my best friend's father was from Vietnam, and so it was just always like tasting different food, and as a matter of fact, I love how just in the past 2 years, being able to not even traveling, just staying here in the community. It feels like traveling. I love it. You know, being able to speak to my friend who's from Syria, speaking to somebody else from Lebanon, speaking to somebody else who's from, you know, it has made this community so much better. And I love in our schools, my gosh, being at Queen Elizabeth Moncton High, le D.I.C.E, regardless, you look around, you look at all of the flags, you look at the diversity that we have. And I mean, diversity can mean a multitude of things, right? It can mean, we can talk culture, we can talk about, I'm loving how the city here is having more and more women in leadership roles and things like that. You know, so it's definitely, I love that. Diversity is like Moncton, and I'm loving how we're always kind of improving as a community with diversity.
It's amazing, and especially talking about women, especially for election, we have 3 women in the big city. We have Fredericton, St. John, and Moncton, and Diane was brave, and next time she will be elected in the council for sure. And also we had the Muslim was elected African Canadian in Shippagan. We have a Muslim lady in St. John as well, Paula Radwan. So diversity is everywhere. We start to see it. We start to see it's not just talk, but it start to see it in action, actually, which is good.
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
And that's bringing us to the next question. Diversity is being invited to a team, and inclusion being invited to play in the team. What's your thought of that?
I agree.
I definitely agree. I mean, if we talk about wanting to make Moncton or this community, Greater Moncton, a more diverse place, it's great. But if, for example, I'll just take a soccer game. If let's just say we want to have all kinds of people on the team, we want diversity on the team. Well, what if one can't even get there, right? He doesn't have that accessibility to get there, or he doesn't have cleats. So it's just about kind of giving that, making sure that they are included, making sure that they have the resources that they need. We need to make sure that if we are wanting to have diversity, we need to have support in place to ensure inclusion in the community.
I agree with that. You know, for me, again, I totally agree with what you said. My example for me is like personal. Like for me, I get invited a lot in different events in Moncton. And it's fun, and I love it. I'm always like, yes, yes, yes. Every event, I'm like, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be there. And it was like very interesting. And even the same thing, like with COVID, we had to do a lot of Zoom calls. So that was even better because I could stay home and and be in an event, right? So that's good. That was good for me because I felt, okay, that's a way of seeing diversity. And all the Zoom calls, you can see the faces, or different events, you see everybody. But inclusion for me was when they asked me to be a speaker, right? It's easy to have a diverse event and just invite people. But when you include the people that obviously are minorities here in Moncton, that's how you can actually bring like inclusion, you know, like it feels different. It's totally different from being invited into an event because to bring diversity or include a different culture into the event.
As a leader.
Yeah, as a leader, exactly. So for me, it was like when they asked me to be a speaker, I am beyond proud, and I never really said no to an opportunity. I'm like, I always say yes to every opportunities, but yeah, it's totally different for me, and I agree with that that question. Great point shared. Okay. And diversity, either we want or not, it's a fact. It's something that's happening. It's something that when you put a team together, it's diverse there. And inclusion, as you both shared, is just like giving them access, giving them resources, giving them like fairness. Everyone have the same support that they get. But
The other thing, when you mentioned Diani, about when you feel invited and speak, people, when they feel they speak about their culture, they feel they are recognized. They feel they get a sense of belonging.
Absolutely.
You belong to your community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly.
And that's a big thing for anybody. Like, if you take them anywhere and they say, can you talk a little bit about your culture? And you will be excited. Yes, I come from Morocco, or I come from
Yes.
Dominican Republic, and this is this. You ask me more.
Yes.
And you ask about the
definitely
Acadian
proud.
culture. Can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit more, Christian? You will be excited. Yes, what do you want to know? So it is something close to people's heart.
Absolutely, and you mentioned that, and that makes me think of events that are happening here in the city. When I think of CAFI, they always have like a dîner where they, people are able to, un midi un pays, if I'm not getting the name wrong. It's a lunchtime, and they talk about who they are, and I mean, there's just so much power in being able to share, and then also for us to simply to get everything, to hear what it is that they have to share. And so that sense of belonging is so important. When we think of I don't know if you've ever heard of the 40 developmental assets. I've been involved with Youth First, United Way's Youth First Committee, and we always talk about the 40 developmental assets, and sense of belonging is one of the building blocks for a child to be resilient, right? So I mean, the more building blocks they have, the more sense of belonging they have to their school, to their community. It's just so important, because that can determine how happy they are, how much success they may have in the future and whatnot. And so that sense of belonging and inclusion is just so important.
It's a big
so
thing,
important.
Yeah, especially when you come from another country. Like, I feel like I agree with you. For me, coming from Dominican Republic to here, where I had nobody that I knew really, going to middle school in Shediac, where I was the only black girl, and of course it was hard for me, and I didn't feel like I was normal, or I was like, I was part of that community at all. So I felt really disconnected. So I feel like it's really important to
celebrate.
Yeah.
To celebrate.
Yeah.
But when in the school, Diani, but if you do a presentation about your country or something, the curiosity, probably you see everyone will be just like and listening to you, and you tell them about your country, your culture, you will feel like you're flourishing, because everyone listening, everyone paying attention, and everyone want to learn more.
Oh yeah.
And that's anywhere.
Oh, yes. Yes, as an inspirational speaker, a lot of time when I go to high schools and I do my presentations, even if it's talking about the abuse that I was going through in middle school, and with oh my God, I can't speak, with my parents, and going in foster care, and being suicidal and all that. The kids need that, right? They feel like I'm bringing something to them.
Something nobody speak about or talk about.
Yeah, so they have that, like, oh my God, and then I feel really included with them, right? I feel like we are one, we can talk to each other, we can be open with one another, and they always say, like, this is what we need more people to be honest and open with us. And I feel like being a black woman, and standing up and saying, like, this is my story, like, not only the males or the females, but every young people there can connect with what I'm saying.
There's so much power in storytelling.
Yes, 100%.
So much power.
And storytelling is just like, especially when you speak about something that close to people's heart, you see everyone like as if you're your angel, like, where did you come from?
I make everybody cry.
Yeah.
Honestly, every time I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, oh, and I'm crying too, because I see them cry and we connect, and I'm like, everybody's crying, like from the principals to the teachers, everybody's crying.
Just like, I need to hear this.
Yes, everybody's crying in the school, and then at the end we have like a lot of feedback questions that we have, and then all of them are like, oh my God, this is amazing. And they cry like all the time. It's like, we needed that. Yeah.
Well, sometimes we have to be brave and share some tough topic like this, what we are sharing, diversity, inclusion, racism, discrimination.
Yep.
It's something that we hide under the table, and we hope it will change. But it won't. It's almost like put like a band-aid on a wound, and you expect it to heal by itself. It's an invisible wound. What happened lately in London, Ontario, people were killed just because of their difference, because of their uniform that they were wearing. What happened to the indigenous 215 kids. And so those topics, tough topic that we tend to hide, need to talk about it and accept it and be accountable to move forward, because if we are not on the same page, we can't move to the next step. We have to have a shared understanding to move forward. And that's why we are inspiring a positive change by talking about different things, by being brave. You are sharing your story, your personal story with teenager, because a lot of teenagers that they keep everything inside.
Yes.
And as parent, we need to let children speak, because sometimes they see something and the children ask and the parents say, don't worry about it. And that's almost like you are accepting that and giving it a label. That's a bad thing. And the children grow with that and don't talk about it. Tell somebody to relate with them and bring a public speaker or something and speak, and they start like bursting and break out.
Yes.
So
100%.
inspiring a positive change by this tough topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that just will bring us to the next question, my friend. How can we foster the cross-cultural communication to our young future leaders? How can we foster, for you two audience, give us your answer, please, leave it as a comment. How can we foster the cross-cultural communication to our young future leaders?
I'll take that one. When I think of our youth, I mean, there is just so much, and as we were just saying, right, there's just so much education that can happen when a conversation is had, when education, and I think awareness, mobilization, is at the root of change. And so that's where it starts. And so whatever that may look like, either it be a conversation, a celebration, just having those conversations, education in general, education or what the conversation sounds like at home as well with our youth, right? I think there's just so much importance in that in order to bring change.
Amazing, good point.
No, I agree with you. We have to do that at home too, you know. It's like have to be at school and at home. But yeah, I agree with you.
They said it takes a village to raise a child. So
It's my favorite sayings. I say it
love
all the
that.
time.
You know, I always say, like, when people tells me that, I'm like 100%. And I'm like that too, because like my all the kids in like my little neighborhood, if you will, we have like 7 kids that are always in my house, and I'm like, you know, I'm gonna treat you like my kids. If you do something bad, I'm gonna tell you. If you do something good, I'm gonna tell you. You know, and I not necessarily expect that. I wish that if my kids go into somebody's home, they're gonna treat them the same way. They're gonna, you know, they treat their kids and be like, if you do something good, I'm proud of you. If you do something bad, go in timeout. You know, so I agree.
There's just so many stories that we can tell when we talk about it takes a village to raise a child. I mean, and I'll come back to those 40 developmental assets, because I love those, and you guys need to look that up if you've never heard of those. When we talk about even just saying hi to a teenager on the street, that can have an impact in how they feel like they belong. They're not just, oh, teenagers, they're bad, they're biking around, and you know, what are they up to? It's just so important to, with the simple little gestures like that too. It doesn't need to be something big.
You know, like my kids, it's kind of funny because they do that all the time. Like they can see somebody, they will see you, and my youngest will be like, oh, you're so beautiful. I like your hair. You know, like they do that everywhere. Like
That's
honestly,
nice.
everywhere. At Sobeys, they will be like, hey, why are you having bananas? Do you like bananas? I like bananas too. You know, they will literally, they talk to everybody, and they really love people. They love
like to start conversation, which is good.
Yes, it's good. And I feel like it's so important to have that. It's so important to show, like, you know, and the thing is, like, my kids see me doing that all the time. Like, I just don't stop talking. And I love complimenting other people. Doesn't matter, man or woman. I love your shoes. I love your...
So ripple effect.
You know?
I love your shoe, by the way.
It's ripple effect.
So, yeah, so you
what
connect.
you send, it come back to you.
Yes, and then you connect with
Absolutely.
that person. You have like these conversations, and then suddenly you start talking, and then you're like, oh my God, we have so much in common. You know, totally two different person coming out one. It's like, I love it.
That's how connections are
Yes.
made.
100%.
Conversations.
It's just the mirror.
As simple as that.
mirror.
As simple as conversations.
Just like a mirror. I like your shoes, Christina. I like your shoes. Nobody said I like your shoes only because it's kind of high.
We can't see them, but I'm sure it was like nice.
No, but it's true. It's all about connection. It's all about it's like the mirror.
Yes.
When you are looking at the mirror and you see yourself, of course you will smile because you want to like what you see. The same thing when we are outside in the community. When we smile to somebody, they will smile back to us. If we are just like frowning and look at them and say, what's wrong with them? Because you are not, smile to them and you will smile back. So with that being said, keep smiling, guys, because it will come back to you. And we are going on a break and see you in a bit. It was an amazing conversation about diversity, inclusion, and equity. And we will be right back. Thank you very much. Hello, we are back here with this amazing lady. We are talking about diversity, inclusion, and equity, and we were discussing about it take a village to raise a child. That's really true. Take a village to raise a child. And even back home in Morocco, like if we are running outside, everyone feel like your parent, like even neighbor and like somebody, just because the village now, everybody, you do something and somebody comes smacking your head, don't do that, and it's just it's like, and it's nice because everyone care about you, everyone want the best for you, and if you do something, your father will know about it, your mother will know about it, your brother will know.
The thing back home in Jamaica was the same thing, but it was like, I'm gonna slap you, and your mom's gonna slap you back because I'm gonna tell her what happened. So you're gonna have a choice.
You will learn for sure.
You will learn, yes.
Yeah. But that's really it's very important to raise a child, because we could do our job at home, and the child will go outside in the community, and friend is a big influence if we don't follow up and see who is the friend of our children. Also at school. So it's almost like block by block you build up that future leaders. Yes, and we complain sometimes why our children acting this way, but are we following up with them? Are we really seeing what's going on in their life? Or we just like happy when they are happy, when they are cranky, we don't talk to them. Oh, no, don't talk to them. But we need to get that conversation floating and going on.
That's true.
And any more to say on that? It takes a village to raise a child before we move to the next question.
Yeah, like I would say, like I feel like it's really important, like you said earlier, to answer the question that the kids have and to be really honest with them. I feel like my kids are, of course, mixed kids, so they have like they see diversity in our family for sure. But at the same time, when we go out of the house, when they have a question, I don't hesitate to answer that question right away. You know, we were at Walmart, and then this lady who's a transgender woman, and my youngest asked me the question, you know, and a lot of people would be like, don't say anything, don't say anything, you know, because the way that he sees it, he was like, Mom, so why did the monsieur has long hair and a dress, you know? And I stopped him right there. I said, you know, and I explained to him what a transgender is, and he was like, oh, okay, she's beautiful. That's it. There was nothing more. But I feel like if I would have been like, don't talk, don't ask question, he will think that that's wrong.
Building something, and they will just like.
So no, I was like, I explained to him, and he said, she's beautiful. And then she turned around and said, thank you, because usually people don't answer the kids those questions.
Yeah, I salute you for that, because conversation with children, a lot of parents say, don't say that, don't talk about that, and they will just like, the child will grow up with that mind that there is something wrong with that, and he will never go back to that till he grow up. They find out that something it's hard for him to talk about.
That's true.
And actually last year when COVID hit, and you know, children were at home, and we were hoping to connect with them somehow, and we didn't really know how we would be able to do that. It was easier for some through, you know, online education, but it was not easy to connect with everybody. But thankfully there was something else when we talk about how it takes a village to raise a child, suddenly we knew we had a gap with children not necessarily having access to food, right? And there was just, it was beautiful to see how, as a district, we said, okay, we may not have been identified as essential workers, as community schools coordinators, but we know that there's a need. So we quickly rallied and had so many partners come together, right? It's not the responsibility of the school. It's not the responsibility of this organization. It was just, working with Food Depot Alimentaire, it was working with United Way, it was working, everybody said, okay, we have a gap currently at this point, and we need to work together. And I thought that was just such a beautiful collaboration of partners, volunteers, people just saying, okay, you know what, I will risk my health. I'll put a mask on and I'll be a volunteer for your program, and we will make sure to connect with the students, to feed them. And I think that visually, when I think of how it takes a community to raise a child, sometimes there's existing things that are happening, sometimes it's those informal conversations at home or in the community, and then sometimes it's saying, okay, we have a big need and we need to work together as a community to raise these children.
100%. And sometimes the basic need, if it's not met, you can't be happy. You can't have a conversation. How I will have a conversation if I'm hungry? You will be like, you are talking about
nobody has a conversation when we would have.
I'm talking about diversity. You have some bread. You have some. I need to feel these needs, and I'm fortunate to see that. But it's all come, as you both shared at the beginning, from understanding and listening and really pay attention to what's going on. And when we understand the basic need from sense of belonging, like security, safety are met, food and everything fed very well, then okay, what's next? I have a full belly, now I can stand, I can talk, then I can discuss the topic. And that's really important as filling the gap, as you mentioned, Christine, because filling the gap and hitting the problem where it is from the root can really fix it. And that's just what will bring us to another thing that we tend to hide a lot from it, like as a tough topic, racism, discrimination, and all that stuff. And sometimes it's rooted from hate, it's rooted from fear, it's rooted from ignorance, or it's rooted also from some need is not met. And that could cause that problem. And how do, like I know, conversation on tough topic help remedy the wound, or at least can make it talkable? We talk about it so we can find the solution for it, instead of just hiding on the table and say, okay, racism doesn't exist, discrimination doesn't exist, this is beautiful community. Yes, it's a beautiful community, we all belong here, but we have to say things as it is and find the solution.
And when I was in middle school in Shediac, I was bullied a lot. Of course, I was saying, like, I was the only black girl there. So every single day it was something about my color, something about my hair. I got named all the names that you can imagine. Names that I didn't know what it was at the beginning because I was Spanish. So I was like, I don't even understand what they're saying to me. But then I learned what it was, and it was hurtful. And I remember one of my biggest bullies, to be honest, like, he was bad. He was on me all the time in school. And sometimes I would go close to the teacher so the teacher could try to see it, but they wouldn't do anything. They would just look away and just continue what they were doing. So it was my early 20s. I think I was like 21. And he reached out to me again. He apologized from back then when he was being a bully to me and all that. And I was like, I have no hate for him. The thing is, like, he didn't understand that while he was bullying me, I was being abused physically at home and verbally. So then I was going to school, and then that was adding up more into what I was going through. So then that's when I became suicidal. And I said, like, I do understand. And he says, kind of weird, because, like, I never knew how to explain to you that I liked you. So I was bullying you. And the other kids that were bullying me was not the same, but it was more because at home they were seeing it a lot from what I've learned years after. So I was like, okay, well then I don't have any hate for those people bullying me because they were racist. Because for me, it's like, you're not born racist. Nobody's born racist. Nobody. Right? We learned that. And then the perfect example is when my son, he had this Canadian hat. Hockey. I don't watch hockey. So the only thing that I know is that the Canadians. That's because they that's the hat they had. So Elijah loved that hat, and Nico had the same one, and then Elijah decided to bring it to school. And then a few days after, I was like, "Oh, you're bringing your hat?" He's like, "No, I'm okay." And I was like, "Okay." The next day I was like, "Are you bringing your hat because it was warm?" I was like, he's like, "No, it's okay. I don't want to." I was like, "Okay, come here."
There's a Leafs fan at school.
I was like, "What's going on? You love that hat. You always wanted to put it on, and now you don't want to." And then I sit him down, and he's like, "Because there's like a few kids at school that said that my team sucks, and that I should put that hat in the garbage because it sucks. That team sucks." And I was like, and I tried to explain to him, it's not the kid, is the parents talking like that when they're watching a hockey game, that a sport is supposed to be for fun. I'm a soccer player. I'm not going to be screaming bad things about another team. I just want everybody to have fun and to enjoy that sport. And my kid did not want to wear a hat that has a Canadian local hockey game or whatever on it. Just because other kids were bullying him at school because it wasn't the team that they go for. And that's the thing. It started at home.
Yes.
The hate, the racism. Like I said, no kids is born like that. My kids, they don't for them, they see friends. Doesn't matter the color. Doesn't matter what they look like. My partner, Dave, as his nephew has autism. Okay. And they were a little bit worried about how my kids were going to react, or if they're going to say something, "Oh, he walks weird," or "He talks weird." Nothing. For them, they just love Tyler. They're like, "Oh my God, we love Ty. We want to play with Ty," because they don't see that. They don't want to judge. They just see that he's fun. Even if he speaks different, even if he talks different, they don't see that. And that's what important is, to try to show the kids. There's no hate. We're humans.
100%. And it's come from the parent, eh?
Yes.
100%. And I mean, I always like to say, when you're talking and you have a little baby at home, babies are like sponges. They hear everything and they will believe everything that you say to be the truth. And so even if it's just jokes or little comments, there's just so much that can be passed on generation from generation, right? And to your story, and my gosh, thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure when you said that you were able to forgive, or you were able to understand, well, number one, there's definitely a lot of heart in you, and understanding, some education on your end to understand that that child probably wasn't given, right, the message that diversity is beautiful, or so just the message that we give, and the conversations that happen at home, just so much importance in everything that we say. And again, the 0 to 5, we shape adults through those years. And so, the more positive adults, the more that, we have a positive community supporting that child, celebrating, encouraging that diversity, that conversation.
100%.
So important.
Yeah, because growing up, like I said, for me, I hated being Black. I just wanted to be like everybody else. I was like, I just want to be white with straight hair and not stand out, and just be literally normal. Because for me, it was like, that's the normal that I was seeing, right? Living in Shediac. And now I just love the fact that I'm Black. I just love the fact.
Sense of belonging.
Yes.
You love being in your.
Yes, I love being a Black Latino, and then I love my curly hair. I decided to just go natural with no chemicals. And I rock it. I'm just rocking.
It's unique. I'm unique.
I'm rocking it. I love it. You are. And the thing is, all these things that I hated when I was a kid because I was bullied, I love it now. Right?
Shape you who you are.
Yeah, it shaped me who I am, and I'm so stronger because of that. And yes, I do forgive them because again, it's a thing of understanding that they're not born like that. And for me was like, you know, it's okay. Because what I was living at home, the thing that was happening at home was so hurtful that I felt like, okay, I don't want to give that pain to anybody else. So I wasn't being a bully because I was like, I'm in so much pain.
Feels.
And they're bullying me and they don't know what I'm going through at home.
Right.
What if I bully somebody and then that continues because I'm going to laugh at them for being something else? Yes, and you're just never going to stop. But yeah, racism is something that is here, you know, like even as an adult right now, we still see it. But it's just, you just have to have a voice, you know. Before I would let it go. Now I don't let it go.
That's good.
Now
That's
I'm just like,
change.
and when my kids are there, I point it out. I say, what this person said is not right because, and my kids are like, oh yeah, I know, you know, so they know that it's not right. So I feel like always having a voice and always standing up for others, and even if it's not just for you, even if it's not just you, it doesn't matter, somebody else. I see somebody being mean to somebody, I'm gonna stand up. I don't care who it is. But yeah, I think that's the way, and then you connect with that other person, that you understand what they're going through, you know, like racism is here, hate crimes are here, but we just have to, as a community, stand up together and have, like, speak up.
Speak up and find your voice.
Yeah.
Find your voice, and because if you let it happen to you, that person will think it's a habit.
Yeah.
It's normal.
Yeah.
And he will carry on with that. And if you see that happen to somebody else and you don't stand up, it's almost like the other person who bullied or did that act.
You're the
because it's the same thing.
Yeah,
and I like what you shared earlier, both of you, because racism is an act that's really emerging from a place of fear, a place of ignorance, a place of lack of education, and somebody maybe see their parent doing it. They say, that's a black person, that Asian, that's, you know what I mean? And the children grow with that as normal, and they might say it, and at school everyone look at them weird, as if they did something wrong, and the child starts to question himself, well, my parent do that, or I see somebody do that. So the change need to start, as you said, stand up for what is right, find your voice, because I like, my grandmother always used to say this, because the reason I love diversity and stuff, because I used to drive taxi, and I wrote a book about that, and I was driving this guy, and he was sitting at the front, and the moment he asked me, where are you from, we were like talking like a nice, having fun. The moment he said, where are you from, I said, from Morocco. He said, are you Muslim? You just like take a person and put another person. It was so hateful, was so bad, get out of here, you are not welcome, and stuff. That didn't stop me, but it just gave me that I said, you know what? I'm going to share my story. I'm going to be the change I want to see in the world.
Yeah, others, yeah.
Right?
100%. And let's all be the change we want to see in the world, because it could be a smile. It could be standing up for your friend that you see walking the street, somebody bullying him, and you tell him, okay, don't do that, that's not right. And we need a policy, that will be the next question after the break, will be a policy that we need, like a policy that will be against bullying, against racism, against discrimination. So we will all thrive together as unit. So see you in a bit. Thank you very much. Hello, we are back again here talking about let's dice together to inspire a positive change in our community with Diane Blanco and Christine Alla, and we were talking about racism, discrimination and hate, and you shared really some great point, and it's all about education, it's all about get out of your comfort zone and be open to learn about other people.
Absolutely.
And that's all about it. Let's move to the next question. We hear a lot about safe working environment, and there is policy, there is all stuff. Do we have like safe living community environment? Like maybe something we need, maybe something the city, maybe see to others, we need something in place to deal with the racism, discrimination, and some, like safe living community environment. If you see something, there is this number, call 911, or there is a number for hate, discrimination, racism, because people when see that's happen, it's happening to a member of community. Like there is 5 fingers of a hand. There is a black, there is a white, there is Muslim, there is Christian, there is Jew. We are all part of this community, and we want to come together to grab this paper with 5 fingers. 1 finger or 2, it will be hard to grab it. So if we have something, dealing with consequences, you bully this person, and people will, if there is some consequences or something, and there is some punishment or something for that, people will be more aware of this. This is happening in the community. We don't want this to happen. What do you think of that?
Well, it's like the same thing as like stealing. If you steal, you have a consequence because of doing that, because that's wrong. So you think with racism and hate crimes, it should be the same thing, right? Because it's wrong. It's something that it should be illegal. You know, you're not gonna tell your kids like stealing a candy, it's okay, and then you know, like because it starts small like that, right? It's like the little things, the little words here and there, and then when it comes bigger. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, like, for me personally, it's like, if my kid's gonna steal a little candy, I'm gonna be as mad as if he was stealing, like, a big candy. You know, and it's the same thing with hate crime and being racism. You have to stop it when it's small, instead of waiting when it becomes something so big, right? And then it comes, like, what happened in Toronto, something like that, you know? Like, when it comes to that point, it's not, it will be too late. It needs to start when it's small, when, you know, like show them that this is serious, this is something that is illegal. And if it goes higher, like, you know, you have big consequences, but we don't want that to happen like it happened in Toronto. We don't want that at that level.
And I think I agree with you. You know, there needs to be some form of consequence. There's also something that when I think of a policy or when I think of consequence, the punishment itself, will that really serve to educate the person to not make the same mistake, right? And I think with the policy, there needs to be the policy, enforcement of that policy, education and awareness around why it exists, but then also when those mistakes happen, when those things happen, when you know, when there's disrespect or whatnot, there's that piece where we need to also educate. And I mean, I can think about it when I think of, you know, various types of scenarios in life, either it be, you know, injustice or, you know, like you said, stealing, a crime, right? I think the same goes with racism, with these kinds of things where we have to look at the root. Where does that initially come from? And it's a lack of awareness, it's a lack of understanding, it's a lack of education. Everybody only sees the world through the lens of what they've experienced, right? So if they don't get an opportunity to have more education, how will their view on the world change? So I think there's a huge piece on awareness and education with policies.
Like, it has to start in school. Because the thing is, even if we do say that we have to start that at home, it's not every parent who is open into doing something like that, right? So I feel like the school should take that over, because even if you're like, oh no, that's something your parents need to teach you, but do you see what's happening in closed doors? No, you don't, right? So I feel at least if the child has that starting in kindergarten and going up, you know, they still get into that learning, be like, okay, well, my parents do this, but it's not okay because at school we'll learn this, right? So I feel like it's kind of like you say, it's important to teach them and not just be like, you know, and like again, it's thinking about the next generation. Sometimes if you think about trying to change somebody right now, right, it's kind of hard. Let's say if somebody who's, I don't know, 30 years old and his whole life was hating and being racist to people, it's kind of not hard, but it can be, to try to teach them and try to change that mindset into hating people. But if you start at 5 years old and you're like, you know, this is hurtful, this can be going, you know, and then you go in school and up, and then it will be totally a different person. But my point is sometimes we don't have that at home. So
100%.
That's a good point, and I'll piggyback, and I don't know if I should be putting in a shameless plug for the Imagination Library program, but I was presenting to the Rotary, Moncton West and Riverview Rotary lately, And one of the members, I really loved his question. He said, do you have a lot of Indigenous authors or illustrators? And I said, that's a very good question. I'll contact my national rep for the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library program. This is a program where children get one free book in the mail at no cost every month from birth to age 4, well, right before they start kindergarten. And he said, you know, I think it's just so important that we educate our children just about diversity and whatnot. And I said, these books, that's the beauty of these books. They have a committee in place where they, you know, people from, you know, maybe the education background, all kinds of different backgrounds that carefully select these books to educate on various themes, either it be the environment, either it be diversity and these things. So if it's not the parent that has this education, maybe at least through books, they can, for example, through the Imagination Library, even before starting school, right? I think there's just so many ways to educate the child, even though the parent may not have that. You know, you as a leader here in Moncton, you know, you're inspiring, you're educating. Ali, same for you, right? You're inspiring, right? You are inspiring, you are educating. There's just so many ways to educate. So not to say that, yeah, I always say it does take a community to raise a child, and I agree with you with the fact that, you know, maybe at home, that's not where it can always happen. Yeah. So with these books, with community members, with the schools, I think all of that put together, I think is the way to go.
100%. And each one learn differently. I agree with you 100%, Christine, because when you teach that at an early age, through books, through imagination, how many children, like you see, they believe more on the TV than what their parents tell them? You see something in the cartoon, oh, we see it on TV.
Oh, yeah. But like, that's true, Mom, because they said it on TV. I'm like, that's not true. What are you doing? Yes, I saw it. You know, it's like, this is true, though. But
the visual is more impactful.
Yes.
And it need, I will just go back to what you shared earlier about racism. Sometimes it starts from hate. It starts from a place of we need to find the root. But sometimes there is like some behavior that lead to feeling. And that feeling, when it happens, somebody gets angry, somebody gets mad, there is a need that needs to be met. Instead of just like reacting to that behavior and be mad to that person, what's caused that person to act that way, and just go to the root of it. Maybe you need education, maybe something that have wrong misinformation that this Muslim, these black people, this have a wrong image about that, and just maybe it's all about education. It's all go back to education. It's all go back to take a village to raise a child, and it's hand in hand go with that.
Yep.
So just thought like feeling, behavior, and need, it's go hand in hand, and it's really connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's go back to the next question, which I know we don't have much time, but sometimes we have like a lot of unconscious bias, and sometimes we say, I was raised this way. I was doing this for a long time this way. My parents were doing it, but that doesn't mean it's the right way. No. Sometimes, how many times, we grow up and we find that we're doing something wrong for a long time because our parents, and they say, oh, we're just so stubborn this long, and now I see it from different angle.
You know, I have this. I'm really open-minded as a person, and when people tells me like, this is how I grew up, or you know, like my parents did this way, my thing is like, there's no excuse. That's like no excuse. Doesn't matter if that's how you were raised, there's no excuse. Because if I would be the person that should have been because the way I was raised, because of what's happening in my life, I would be a horrible person. Honestly, I will be horrible. I will be I would hate everybody, you know? And that's the thing that I say, there's no excuse, because it's like I was physically, verbally, emotionally abused as a kid. As a teenager, I went into a bad relationship where this person was physically abusing me, sexually abusing me, and verbally abusing me. It was really bad. It was a bad relationship. So I said, if that's who I'm supposed to be, because that's how I was raised, that this is what I knew, right? No, there's like, for me, there's no excuse when it comes to racism and say, this is what I saw, you know, especially when it comes to an adult and every resources that we see and the people that we meet and all that stuff is like, I don't know. For me, it's like, there's no excuse. That's like a big no for me. That's like the thing that I shut it down right away when they say, oh, sorry, this is how I was raised. Or
isn't what they say? They said, like, I think 10% is what happened to you in life and 90% is how you react to it.
Yes, exactly.
So
no.
It can be done if you really don't take that as an excuse and really focus about change.
Yeah.
Like, it takes time, and change is hard sometimes, but it take courage and responsibility and accountability as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, I was blessed with amazing parents that were very open-minded, and they really instilled that in me, and they always said that it was important to respect one another. And I also had amazing coaches, amazing role models in the community. And so, I mean, I was blessed with that, but I know that is kind of what gave me those building blocks. And, you know, when you share your story and how resilient you were, I mean, there's beauty in that anyway. I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, but come back to the question, we're talking, right, the bias. It's not, I recognize that it's not everybody that is raised in that way. And when I started working in schools is when I realized, ooh, okay, this is what reality looks like at home for many people. And so the bias is there, and we can't just sit there. And I think in the past year, there's been so many themes and issues that have risen from this pandemic. And I think that's beautiful because people are shaking up and saying old ways, that's not the way. It doesn't mean that just because certain things were, you know, swept under the carpet that they don't exist. It's so easy, and that's, I think, is part of the problem. Like you said, it's to not acknowledge that something's happening and something is wrong, or to not talk about it. So I love the fact that even just this evening we're having this conversation, because conversation brings awareness. Awareness brings exactly.
And then the thing, like, just putting in, oh, it's in the past or whatever. No, it's not in the past. It still hurts people. And that's the thing that with everything that happened with the schools.
215 people they found in BC.
My heart, I was crying. I was like, and I was seeing the pictures of the paintings of like the mother, the kids being ripped out of her arm. And, you know, and I felt that pain. And I was like, I would cry for the rest of my life, just looking at my kids and feeling that. And then I was sharing that with Elijah and Nico, and they were like, Elijah had tears, like he was crying because I was trying to explain to him what was it about and trying to share awareness to my kids of like what was happening. And they were like, this is horrible. Like, how can you do that? That's so hurtful, Mom. And it's, maybe it's in the past, but it's not, because a lot of people...
The past is always part of our culture, and we have to make the past to be part of the present and accept the past and take the responsibility, accountability, and move forward. Conversation, as you say, conversation lead to raising awareness, awareness lead to change. Let's all be the change we want to see in the world. And our show coming to an end. I would like to thank Diane Blanco for this amazing conversation. Christian, Alain, we need more time, but time is up. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Thank you.